So, welcome back to Shift Happens. And today, got something a bit different on the agenda. I think what's going to underpin, or what I really want to underpin today, is around one of my favorite sayings, which is, didn't see the wood for the trees. And essentially, people focusing on the minutiae and completely forgetting about the big pillars.
Is that actually the saying, didn't see the wood through the trees?
Yeah, when you say someone, you don't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, so that's the saying.
Yeah, it's kind of the same.
But I think you're missing the point. Or you're
exactly.
missing
The bigger picture.
Yeah.
And all too often I get people, whether it's in practice or even just friends and family, who'll be like, oh, Clem, what do you think about this really random and obscure supplement? And you think, well, take a step back. What's your nutrition like? What's your hydration like? What's your exercise like? How are you managing your stress? Deal with all of these things first. And then maybe we can start focusing on the small, tiny little incremental increases that you might get with some of these supplements. And so that's kind of the premise of today that I really wanted to chat to you about. Because I wonder if in mental health or around what you do when people are feeling stuck, are they overly focusing on the small things and not maybe taking a step back and looking at the wider picture?
Yeah, I suppose part of the coaching is starting with the bigger picture and then zooming in.
Yeah.
Because then you have a direction to go into. But then, as you know, you have to break it down in small steps and small changes, because otherwise you can't really tackle the big picture with, or I suppose in the situation that I'm in, people who are overthinking and over-analyzing and in their heads too much, you then tend to micro-focus on things.
But this is it.
So I suppose part of, taking a step back is descaling something, the importance of it, and then looking, stepping back a bit to get a better understanding of everything at play.
And I think also, from my experience of going through coaching, it's also thinking about what are the fundamentals of the things I want to achieve in my life, right? Not necessarily just focusing on the smaller things. So happiness, love, fulfillment, making sure these buckets are being filled rather than hyper focusing on something that's irritating you or something that's not moving or something that's being really stagnant, but actually isn't fulfilling any of those big buckets that do fulfill you, that do actually improve your quality of life and your health and your well-being in other ways.
Yeah.
And I do think when it comes from a nutrition perspective, we can kind of extrapolate that concept, I think, especially when it comes to the supplements piece.
Okay.
So I will always say, and I spend my time with clients, going through their supplements list, which sometimes I have people who turned up with pages of supplements that they take in a day.
Really?
Pages.
So you're taking 20, 30 supplements?
And more.
Really?
Yeah.
But what do you have? How does that even work? Is that genuine? You must spend hundreds of pounds a month on supplements.
I don't. One
does.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. I think there's a few things at play, right? There's one, being caught into this marketing, social media sphere where people are selling do you remember that word? The panacea? A panacea of, supplements supposed to be cure-alls for your anxiety, for your stress, for your well-being, for your wrinkles, for your hair, for your nails, blah, blah, blah. And so when people are in despair and they are in a heightened sort of sense of they can be more influenced basically when people are in despair or when they're really vulnerable.
Yeah,
and so they see this and they think, okay, well, what's the harm of not trying? And so they'll try it. Maybe they convince themselves there's 1 or 2% improvement. And so then they're kind of hooked on it. And then something else comes along. And then instead of stopping it because nothing happened, they just carry on because they think, well, what could go bad?
Yeah. Okay. So this topic you came up with about supplements, I obviously don't know nearly as much as you / not much at all. So shall we start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Supplements has obviously like hugely grown in the last 5 or 6 years. I think since COVID, they say that is like where it really expanded, probably because people had more money, more time.
Were researching.
There was a lot of kind of maybe
people really got into their health,
and health came up big time, wellness, etc. during those years. So the supplement industry now is obviously big, billions, and I think it's billions of dollars, but it's growing.
Yeah,
and what strikes me the most about it, which for me is like the number one kind of question, is it's not regulated.
Yeah.
So how the hell do we know what we're taking, and is that a dangerous thing that it's not regulated?
I want to caveat everything we talk about with supplements today is under the assumption that you have a healthy, balanced diet in every other way, and that you are a genuinely healthy person. So
it's not medical thing,
exactly,
not medical or prescribed.
Exactly. Putting aside if you have a certain condition or certain needs, and I'll address it, like I can address some of these things as we move along, but on the whole, kind of assuming general health, open diet, so no vegan, not vegetarian in any way, or any kind of strict aversions. But yes, it's a really, really good question, because you're absolutely right. It is not regulated, and there has been loads of scandals over supplements that actually don't even contain what they say they contain.
Yeah.
Recently, one of the big ones was creatine gummies. And when they sent them out for third-party testing, they came out with less than like a percentage.
So it's like buying Haribos at really expensive price.
Completely. But expensive Haribos. But also people telling themselves they're doing the right thing, and actually they're not. So the first hurdle, you're absolutely right, is do I even know what it is that I am taking if I'm going down this supplement route? So what you can do though is there are companies who do third-party testing. So they send them out. Exactly. So they send them out, and then they get a certificate from an outside lab saying this contained that. Now, the thing is, you can sometimes see these companies that say third-party tested, and then you look throughout the whole website and there's nowhere to find the certificate. So
even that is a lie.
So if you're really into it, send an email to the company and say, I want to see the certificate and I want to see the results of those things.
That's nuts, because if you think about it, imagine the thought process. If someone said to you, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, you will take something every single day and actually not really know what's in that. People would have said like, no way am I going to put that in my body. Do
you remember the horse meat scandal?
Yeah.
When there was loads of companies that were putting horse meat instead of beef, and people went crazy. Now, horse meat is still meat and
edible,
and it's fine for human consumption. But people were going nuts, and now they're taking supplements, barely knowing what they're having.
That's actually wild if you think about it.
And I get how like the ethics of eating horse meat instead of beef might be concerning for some people. In France, they do eat horse meat more regularly, so it's less of a thing. But again, we're kind of like, people are happy to take something that they actually have no idea what's in it.
Like, is there supplement professionals? Because, for example, you can go to your GP, and I actually went in January or February because I was feeling quite energy low and quite like, I suppose, lethargic or mood, and I thought, I probably have a deficiency. I'm going to start with my bloods. And she did a whole kind of array of tests, or just blood tests, but like checked a few things. And I came back with 0 deficiencies. Now, of course, there were low levels of, say, Vit D, and I think she said folate or something else, but like the low levels, not even in the deficiency, which in the middle of winter, I was actually quite surprised. But equally, when she came back with the results, there was no guidance. She said, if you want to take this, you can. There was no direction of use,
so it leaves you confused,
no numbers, like telling me like dosage. I had to then email further to ask her that information. So it made me think, like, is it out of her realm? Like, once she's done her as a GP, once she's done her testing, she's probably like, that's fine, or, because there was no critical like need to assess. And I thought, well, that's really confusing, because should I take something if I'm on the low end, or should I not? And if I do, how much should I take?
And which type?
Do I go to the chemist and ask them? Anyway, so it did make me think, is there like an actual supplement professional?
So technically that's kind of the dietitian's role.
Oh, it's you.
When it comes, it's me.
That's actually funny. So it is you.
It is.
Actually, interestingly, it made me think. I did ask Google a question.
Yeah.
Which is there ever? It was something like, can nutrition replace all supplements? And the kind of Google answer was essentially yes.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, that's so interesting. Like literally, if you eat properly and varied, you can remove more or less all supplements. I think, again, maybe not those that are medically prescribed for specific conditions.
Yeah, for specific conditions.
The ones that is being sold on social media and the ones that we're, talking about and things.
And this is
in the kind of viral space. So it's really interesting that people would go and spend £100 a month on a bunch of supplements
and more,
instead of increasing their knowledge or even their
diversity.
The quality of the food that they're eating, the diversity of the food they're eating, because essentially they could just get the same outcome, but with the pleasure of feeding themselves differently.
And that's the thing. But the problem is, as in this country, most people don't get 5 fruits and vegetables a day. Over 90% of people don't get enough fiber a day, right? So nutritionally, we are not feeding ourselves as a UK population adequately. And the problem with that is because we're not having these nutritionally dense foods, namely fruits, vegetables, lean meats, fish, it's being replaced by quite sort of processed carbohydrates. Now, I am the first one to say that. Like, I love a pizza, a burger, a pasta, like processed carbs, love them. But they don't carry a lot of nutrients. So we're filling ourselves up with food that doesn't have all of this nutritional goodness.
Yeah. So therefore we are. So technically we can get everything from foods, but in practice probably we're not.
We know that we're not in actual practice. And in fact, most of the population isn't, because they are not meeting standard guidelines. And these are like minimum guidelines, right? They're not sort of optimal guidelines. And this is where you get then some people who say, okay, well, I'm meeting my nutritional needs, but now I want to optimize.
Yeah.
And so then they go into the supplement realm because they want to take it that level further. We have to also remember that there's a difference between like obesity and nourishment. And I think we are, as a population, we are an obese and overweight population, but we're also malnourished.
That's okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you, how did you come up with those two words? Because they did not seem to work together.
So you can be overweight and malnourished at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
So it's confusing people. It's like, oh, because they're overweight, there probably is excess, but actually it's not, it's excess fat, but it's not excess
calories.
Goodness.
It's just it's energy. That's all the excess is, but it's not in terms of nutrition and nutrients.
So it's counter intuitive.
I think people kind of forget that we can be an undernourished but overweight population at the same time, which is kind of the situation that we're in.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'd be really curious. So in your circle, have you found like you and your friends taking more supplements or even talking about it? So because in my world, we talk about it all the time, but that's not always.
I would say no. We don't really talk about it. And in my knowledge... Again, it's hard to tell because I'm not prying and like asking these questions, but I should ask. I don't think I know many people who are supplementing, and maybe if it is, it's probably like Vit C and Vit D. Yeah, like the very I suppose commercial. Well, I don't know. I feel like they're the kind of standard ones. The first thing you might do in the winter is like, oh, I'll get some Vit D and Vit C because
fight off a cold or something.
Fight off a cold. Yeah, exactly. Do I know people taking like the brain ones that optimize your brain health and the ones that do, the nail strength, hair strength, collagen? Not really. I don't think so.
I almost feel like the first time you came into contact, or like not contact, but you started taking supplements was during your pregnancy.
Yes. And I was going to say that actually, that's probably the one I would say all of the friends and like people I've known pregnant, I think in this country, it's like you start taking folate and Vit D or something. I can't remember.
So, there's like amongst others,
because I think that is, NHS required guidelines, and GPs will push that on as a positive thing to do. For me, what did happen is I came to you for nutrition, I started eating much, much more varied.
Yeah.
Much more varied. And I think that throughout the whole pregnancy, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but I never had any deficiencies.
Yeah.
Through all the blood tests that I had.
But I think this is, again, we're kind of going back to, if you are a little bit mindful about what you're eating and the diversity of what you're eating, you can get all of these things through food. If we're looking at like your bread and butter of supplements, you've named one of them already, which is your vitamin D. Vitamin D is kind of the accepted, like...
Everyone can take that.
In this country, because we don't get enough sunlight, it's really one that everyone should and could be taking.
Okay.
I even remember, because I didn't for a long time take any kind of supplements. And then I remember moving back after living in a sort of hotter, warmer, sunnier climate, feeling really low and just really kind of not myself. And I didn't even take a blood test, but I just remember thinking, well, vitamin D is probably at play here, or like there's something going on. And so I started taking fish oil and vitamin D at the same time. And I remember within like a week feeling much more like myself. And so we know vitamin D has an impact on mood and stuff like that. So I would say vitamin D is a really critical one. And then aside from that, then you could say, well, if you don't like fish, definitely getting your fish oils is a really
that's
good
like mental
one.
clarity and
Mental clarity, but you know, brain development, you know, but also heart health, heart disease.
Okay.
Really good for that sort of thing. So for me, those are kind of the real...
And they're quite obvious to pinpoint. If you're not eating fish once a week and you live in London, those are the two.
Those are kind of, exactly. And most people don't eat enough fish. So
how much do we need to eat?
It's 2 portions of oily fish.
So like salmon and...
Mackerel, salmon, sardines, trout. These are all really good sources.
Okay. Having salmon tonight.
There you go.
I think I do eat 2 actually a week, but probably just.
And this is it. And sometimes it can be like if I want to cover my bases. So there's actually nothing, there's no counter evidence unless you're having like 5 grams a day, in which case you could get like a heart attack. But other than that, it's most people, like a tablet would be like 1 and a bit grams. So you're fine. So yeah, those would be kind of my 2. If someone's coming with that, I'm like, cool.
Okay.
Next.
So, but then you're saying, so those 2, you're fine. Then what, so do you have people that have 20 that they're taking a day?
Yeah, absolutely.
But what are they eating then?
Well, this is it. As a lot of the time they're taking them. So you get this counterbalance. Often it's people who have like digestive issues. And so they're taking supplements because they want to see if anything can help them with their digestion. But then
surely you're full. If you take 20 pills in the morning, you're going to be full.
It's filling. But the problem is that the pills themselves can actually cause your indigestion.
Your stomach must be going like, that's like loads of...
But you can also get counter actions.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do they kind of offset each other sometimes?
So some do. So a really classic one, which I find quite ironic that people take together, is vitamin D and vitamin K. So on the whole, vitamins get absorbed either with fat or with water. So like vitamin C is what we call water soluble. Essentially, it goes straight through you. Whatever you don't need at the time that you take it, you'll pee out. Okay. Because you can't store it.
And I've actually noticed that your pee goes yellow.
Yeah.
Much darker.
Especially if you take like a Berocca or something.
So because in the winter, I remember at one point I was like, I'm gonna take bit C just to like fight off the flu or something. And I started peeing loads yellow. And I asked you, I was like, this is really weird. Something's wrong with you. And then you were like, no, it's vitamin C.
You're taking vitamin C. So those sort of vitamins, it's like, use it or lose it.
Yeah. There's no harm done.
No. And that's basically your vitamin C and your vitamin Bs, like your B12s and different B complexes. And then most of the other ones, so A, D, E, K, are all fat soluble. So you can store them. So this is why, they say about, you could take vitamin D in the winter and not in the summer. Oh. Because you store it in your fat. And so you store it for when you need it.
So I didn't know they said that.
So now you do.
The
nutrition sphere.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. A lot of people don't know the basics of just like supplementation. But so vitamin K and vitamin D are often taken together because they both act on bones. So vitamin D helps to like strengthen your bones and vitamin K helps to like take the calcium and chuck it onto your bone. So they take it together. But they compete. with each other because they're both fat soluble. So actually you have less absorption if you take them at the same time. And as long as you're having like dark leafy green vegetables and vegetables in general, you're probably getting enough vitamin K from your diet. So actually you don't need to take the vitamin K in this context, but people are.
And do you think maybe there's also that whole, apart from the marketing rubbish that is the fake stuff that is happening, like, oh, this will debloat you when there's no scientific evidence, or this will boost your immune system.
Great for your skin. Or,
exactly. So do you think also part of it is take more to cover it? You know, part of the marketing is you need more, take more. And therefore people are like, oh, when in doubt, I'll just take it, rather than the opposite, to be like, well, hang on a sec. I'll let me have a look into it before taking it. I feel like there's more of a push towards just take it in case.
Well, it's consumerism, right? They're pushing a product. This is it.
But
it's like,
imagine Nurofen pushing Nurofen.
But this is it.
They would be so sued if they were like, you think you might have a headache? Just take a couple of Nurofens a day.
And then you'll get over it.
And you'll be fine. And it's eventually someone would probably say, no, that's really dangerous.
And nobody is holding them account. At least with Nurofen, you know what you're taking. You're taking ibuprofen. That's the active ingredients. And it's been scientifically shown and there's evidence and it's massively regulated. You have no idea what's in your supplements. And often when I do my supplement audits for clients, they'll take loads that have mixtures. So like I said, they'll be like, oh, I take a vitamin D. And then they show you the thing. It's like vitamin D, vitamin K, blah, blah, blah.
And you're like...
And then they take a multivitamin that also has vitamin K and vitamin D in it. And then they'll take another supplement that happens to be like...
then all churned up.
But they're also hugely overdosing.
That's it, because they must get like...
Yeah.
Really bad stomach. Eventually, your body must react to that.
Well, it can do negatively. So like I said, I mean, I've yet to come across someone who's taking 5 grams of, omega-3 a day, but you can get atrial fibrillation, which is like a heart condition, if you take too much. So if someone took, and often the problem is because the brandings can be obscure, like it could be like supplements for heart health, omega-3 supplements, EPA and DHA supplements. These are all the same. They would all have the same ingredients.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they're targeting.
But someone might think, okay, well, I have a heart condition and someone told me to take fish oil, and EPA and DHA is really good for cholesterol. So they could take all 3 at the same time. And I think, and so this is a large part also what I do is like, okay, well, let's look at everything you're taking to the ingredients level, assuming they are what they are, and start rationalizing. And often you're like, hey, you don't have to take this because it's already in that, and you don't have to take this.
Probably save them money by doing that as well.
Oh, it's very rare that I'll add. I'll usually replace, or I'll say take this instead of that. But no, often it's like just stripping back. And then how are we going to get it from food? Right? Like you said, all of this stuff, other than vitamin D, which is fortified in food, and that's a separate supplement, I would say, because you really just get it from sunlight. Most of the time, it's just getting it basically through food.
That's nuts.
And so supplementation seems like a really simple solution, but actually if you start taking loads, it really murkies the water. Murkies the water?
Yeah, muddies the
water.
Muddies the water.
And so you have, am I taking what I actually think I am taking, but also am I taking it at the dose?
Yeah.
Because sometimes they have it in there, but maybe not at the dose that you think it is. And the other one is purity. So ashwagandha, I don't know, have you ever come across that?
Is that mushroom?
Ashwagandha is actually, it's a type of herb.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a mushroom actually.
Or
You think of lion's mane? That's a mushroom.
Maybe I'm thinking of that.
So ashwagandha is...
I have heard of it though.
It comes more from like Eastern medicine.
Okay.
And when you look at the research, it's actually pretty good for things like relaxation, stress management, things like that. But research uses like a highly purified version of ashwagandha, which you would be very hard to find or even prove that you could find the equivalent on a commercial basis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so this is the thing, is that you could find a research study that says, taking this amount of ashwagandha is great. And the research study might say like, you need to take like 5 grams. I actually don't know what the studied amount is, but let's say it's 5 grams a day. But then you'll buy a supplement that has like 0.2 grams in this little capsule of, we suppose, some form of probably not super pure ashwagandha. So you're not even taking a very purified version, and it's not even at the dose that you need.
But if someone is listening to that, what do you think would be kind of your go-to guide if they didn't want to speak to a dietitian, but just what's the first point of call when you're looking at getting supplements or looking at your current list of supplements?
But I think definitely taking your advice around, like, understand first of all what it is that you are taking. Look for third-party testing. So important, so that you know that what you're taking is not only what it says on the tin, but it's at the right dose. And that's really important. When in doubt, send them an email, ask them for the certificate. They should have that available. And then make sure you look at all the ingredients. If you're taking more than one supplement, and just put them out and see that there's no overlap. Right? You don't want to be taking like 3 times the same ingredient from a different source, because that could actually be quite harmful. And then in terms of the supplements that I see regularly in my practice, so vitamin D, absolutely. In terms of dosage, I usually recommend around 1,000 to 2,000 IUs a day, and you could take that all year round.
Okay.
Don't worry about summer, winter. If you want to do it intermittently, take it higher dose. You could go up to 5,000 and take it for 6 months of the year. But ultimately, same. Vitamin C, if you are eating enough fruit and vegetables in a day, you don't need vitamin C.
Okay.
And like I said, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you could just be having expensive pee, basically.
But I suppose you could say if you were going through a period where you had a cold and you wanted to take it. Then
there's actually not much evidence that shows that taking like high dose vitamin C helps very much, but there could be a placebo effect, which is totally fine. In which case it's not going to harm you. It might cost you, but it's not going to harm you. So I'm not too fussed around that. If you're thinking of getting pregnant, or you are pregnant, folic acid and folate, super important. It's to do with the neural tube, which is basically the spinal cord of the fetus. So neural tube defects is something that you get in large population scales for women who don't have enough folate in their diet. Folic acid is the synthetic version, which is more highly absorbed and is a precursor to folate. So folic acid gets converted to folate, and that's what the body uses. You can take either one.
And if you're not conceiving or pregnant, can you still take it, as in?
You get it enough from your diet.
Okay, so it's just during those periods, it's to boost it.
Exactly. Okay. And you have to be a little bit careful, because if you take too much, it can actually mask the deficiency of B12.
Okay.
So if you think you've got problems with like your energy levels, and you want to be sure, test for folate, test for B12, and test for iron. Those should kind of come together.
She did that. She did actually tell me about all those 3.
And you need to, because they function kind of together.
Okay.
So it's important that we look at those as a whole. Otherwise, one can mask the deficiency of the other. But in terms of if you take folic acid or folate, it doesn't really matter. But if you're thinking about getting pregnant, or you are pregnant, it's really important that you do take that. Collagen. I see this one so much in my practice. And the thing with collagen is that basically it gets broken down into amino acids, which is just protein. And your body just uses it like protein.
Okay.
So it's a really expensive way of getting a teeny tiny bit of protein.
Okay, interesting.
And that's what it does.
Even the collagen that comes in like those big like powders that people add to their...
It's just a type of protein.
Oh wow, and
fundamentally.
they taste gross as well.
Well, yeah, because it's protein. Yeah. It's just not very nice.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a teeny tiny bit of emerging evidence that it can help with like joint pains.
Okay.
But most people who I see who take it, it's for hair and skin.
Beauty.
It doesn't. There's no evidence that it works for that, and it can kind of cause a bit of stomach irritability and.
So just go and get Botox.
Basically, yeah. Probably not cheaper, but more effective, 100%. The other one, which I do see quite a bit, is CoQ10. CoQ10 has shown to be really effective in fertility for men and women.
So people who are trying to get pregnant, then that's a good one.
Yes. And basically it works because it's a mitochondrial antioxidant.
No idea what you're talking about.
Basically, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell. what gives the cell an energy source.
Okay.
And antioxidant just means that it stops it from like having any issues or deforming or anything like that. So it's an antioxidant.
So why? But so is that the reason why it's helpful during fertility?
Yes, because it helps with spermal mitochondria.
Oh, okay.
And also for eggs, because they have mitochondria in there. It's basically it's really sort of growing evidence in human studies too, which is really important to know. Yeah. So for men and for women, and I looked it up, and the dosage is around 250 to 600 milligrams a day for women. So if you're looking to get fertility treatments, that's probably one you could be looking into for like 2 to 6 months though. So it's not a sort of
instant
overnight.
Fate,
Yeah. What's the other ones? NAD and MNM, which
they're little.
MNM makes NAD.
Okay.
So they're kind of one and the same
it's not
thing.
A little chocolate thing with a peanut inside.
Not M&Ms, but M&M.
Okay.
And basically that's like the whole longevity cohort people who are like, because supposedly it helps to prevent DNA malformation. So it could help you to live longer because your cells are healthier.
And not having cancer, I'm supposing.
Potentially.
Okay.
Now, all the evidence we see in that so far is from animals, which as far as I know, you're not a rat. So it doesn't really tell you very much about how it would affect me and you. And all they can really show for now is that if you take these things, you increase them in your blood, which is pretty obvious.
Okay.
Because if you're going to take something,
it will increase it.
It will increase it in your blood. But the long-term
effect,
we don't know.
Okay.
So that's one but I see that one quite a bit.
Okay.
Electrolytes.
Yes.
This one.
In the water.
I think, oh my gosh.
Making water expensive
and salty. I find the biggest irony is that for years we had like public health campaigns telling us to stop having as much salt. And now we are literally, people are paying to put extra salt in their water.
I know.
Again, unless you're running an ultra marathon, unless you are going through some crazy exercise, or you're an athlete of some sort, or you're playing a really long game of, I don't know, football or rugby or whatever, you do not need electrolytes in your water. Water will suffice, especially if you're eating normally. You get the electrolytes naturally from that. So please just stop with the electrolytes. Just drink water. We talked about a bit, but fish oils, omega-3s, really good. I would say that's a good one. If you're finding it hard getting your 2 oily fish a week, that's a really good one to add for you and the family. A lot of people are a bit adverse to...
It's true. Yeah, having fish is not always on the menu. So
we forget about it. Natural taste buds, especially if you have kids. I mean, a lot of kids don't like fish, so you end up not eating it, and so it falls by the wayside. So getting a fish oil in there, I don't have too many issues. Like I said, and it could be a normal fish oil supplement, and you take one a day. Magnesium.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one.
Have you taken magnesium?
No, so I'll tell you what I was going to ask you about that is that I have a spray. Because apparently you absorb it through the skin really well.
I did not know that about magnesium.
Oh, wow.
I'll have to look that one up. Interesting.
When the student becomes
the teacher. So tell me about your magnesium.
So I have a magnesium spray that if I'm feeling very tired, or especially after exercise before bed, once you've had a shower, you spray it. Yeah. And it's interesting because it does actually tingle when it gets absorbed into your skin.
So I find that, so would you classify that as a supplement though?
I don't know. No, I wasn't thinking that it was. It's just now that you've mentioned it. So I've never ingested it, but I have that spray. Now, to be fair, I don't use it frequently, but I do know, and I have been told as well that if you put it in your bath, it absorbs through. Okay. So I think it absorbs through skin, from my understanding.
Interesting.
As well, but and it's to do with muscles, right?
Yes, and muscle relaxation, but also stress and sleep.
Exactly.
But the one thing to mention about magnesium is magnesium citrate is a laxative. So if you've been taking magnesium and you find that you've been going to the loo a little bit too often, just double check which type it is.
Yeah.
Because you might have got the laxative version. Now, you will also get the de-stressing and things like that, but you'll get also the runs.
But what is that versus the other one? Like,
so the other one would be like magnesium glycinate or biglycinate
but
sometimes.
as in, what do they do? They both do relaxing.
They both do relaxing, but one will give you the runs. The other one won't.
Okay, you might have got the wrong. Okay.
You might have got the wrong one. And quite a few times I get people who are like, oh, I've just been like really loose bowels or something. I look at their supplements, I'm like, I think
why
you can stop that, and then that can help.
Interesting. Well, look into the spray version of
I will look into the spray
and
one.
the salts and all the things you can have through skin
I definitely
absorption.
will, because I think for a lot of people, they just forget. So a spray can be, by the way, vitamin D, you can spray it too. It can be like a mouth spray.
In your mouth,
in
yes.
your mouth.
I did. I remember the pharmacist said that.
Creatine is one that I'm seeing way more. And actually, creatine is a really interesting one. You naturally get it from meat, but you would have to eat a lot of meat to get like the functional levels of creatine that these supplements provide. And creatine, especially in women, has been shown to be very helpful for muscle building, but also for brain, and helps for like concentration. Now, the evidence is still super, super new, but it's quite interesting, and it's actually quite exciting because it's a very safe, very cheap supplement that you can get. And yeah, there could be some really...
So you could get stronger and sharper.
Exactly. And I found a really fun study that showed that it helps with your concentration when you have a hangover.
Oh.
If you've been taking creatine for like a little bit of time, people who were taking creatine performed better on a hangover than those who didn't, which I thought was just such a great study. Can you imagine? You're like, now you're going to drink this and perform this task. And then... So I thought that one was quite a positive study. And then the last one is iron. So in this country, most menstruating women are actually pretty low in terms of iron intake, and usually are in that lower end of iron adequacy. So it might not be like deficient, but on the lower end. And often I see that they feel like a bit lethargic or tired. And when you're low in iron, interesting, you can be tired but have bad sleep. And so you have this...
so you don't actually rest and recover properly.
And like you have like restless sleep, you're not sleeping well, but then you're tired during the day. And those things can be linked to like iron deficiency.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
And if you take iron supplementation, the two things to be really, really like wary of is, one, try to take it with some vitamin C, because that increases the absorption, and avoid taking it with caffeine or any kind of dairy products, because that decreases the absorption, because they compete. So those are kind of like a whistle-stop tour of the supplements that I see in my practice.
Okay.
So basically, I think the takeaways are, if you're taking loads of supplements, find out what it is that you're taking is actually what you're taking and at the right dose. And just double check that you're not like double or triple or quadruple dosing.
And I think know that it's unregulated, know that anything can go to market.
Exactly.
And any marketing message can follow that. So essentially put that in the bin and do your own research.
Yeah.
Because if it says it's debloating, it might not be. If it says it's making your hair better and your nails better, it might not be. Like there is actually no one else doing that. Nobody is doing that. As in, I meant like a body.
Yeah.
Nobody is checking that.
Yeah.
So actually, I think that's really important to know, because then,
Yeah. Well, also, I think it's...
know that.
Think about it.
Buyer beware. It's the buyer beware.
Buyer beware. But also, I think, remember that in all of these cases, if you are not deficient in these things and you supplement, they're not going to make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not going to be superpower.
No, you don't start building like a superpower. So get your diet.
First, get your bloods then.
But get your diet in check. Do the foundationals. Going back to what we started with, focus on the basics. Ultimately, your hormones,
But surely the basics is
health.
start with getting your bloods. Then look at deficiency that you could
But you could do your bloods and your diet at the same time.
Yes, but I mean, like, if your bloods already tell you have no deficiencies, then that's the starting point of being like, okay, but then I want to change my diet, or I want to increase this, decrease this, etc., then it's kind of like one level on top of your next. And then if you then need to go into supplements, choose them carefully, do the research, make sure that you're just taking the necessities that meet the requirements that you have. And so build upon that up until the point you say, okay.
And if you're still symptomatic and you don't know, go see a specialist, go see a professional, right? Like if you are covering your bases and you're still getting symptoms, it's very unlikely that a supplement's going to be the solution to your problem. So seek the actual help that you need
definitely then
for
say
that.
Start with your bloods, then go to your diet, then go to your supplements and do your research.
One last one actually that I just thought about is probiotics. I don't know, have you been bombarded with probiotics?
No? Are they supplements?
Yeah, they fall under the supplement category.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the really important thing about that one is they are all individual. So probiotics are just strains of bacteria.
So I always got the impression that yogurts were probiotics.
They have some probiotics in there, you're right. If it's a live culture, yes. So sometimes they get sterilized. So they don't have much live culture in there. So they don't have much probiotics. But like kefir, because it's fermented, has more. But the thing is, you can take probiotics, right, as like a supplement. But the thing with probiotics is that every single strain is different. So every single probiotic brand, and even within the brand's types, will be different.
Okay.
And the ones that you find in research are not necessarily the ones that you find in.
So it's like, it's not
so you have to know exactly what's been researched in terms of strand, and then find it in a specific supplement.
Okay.
So it's not very simple.
It's not as simple as it seems.
No. And what will work for you won't necessarily work for me.
Okay. And why do people take probiotics? What are the...
Because typically it's that cycle of I feel bloated, or I've got constipation, or I've got some upset sort of gastro. And then immediately they'll be bombarded with some sort of like probiotics, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll go for the list.
Okay, so then
they'll Google probiotics equal. And they are not all created equal. And more to the point, most are not backed by evidence.
Okay, interesting.
So that's, again, go see a dietitian, like speak to someone about this.
Yeah, it's not your go-to solution to solve your bloating.
You can try. It's unlikely it's going to cause harm, except that it's going to cost you money and it could make you feel worse. In terms, like, because you can't find a solution.
Yeah.
You know, it can be really disheartening when you're like, well, I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this and nothing's changed.
Plus, also, everything has a time delay. So it's not like, you invest in supplements, you take them, then you wait for a bit. And then, so it all prolongs these side effects or these, I suppose, these symptoms and maybe the side effects. And so you kind of, it's not a quick way of figuring out if something works for you.
And, if you're going to start taking something and then go on holiday the next week and then you start feeling better, likelihood it's the holiday that you took that's doing more good than the supplement, but you might associate the wrong things. And so it's taking all of that into context can be really tiring and really sort of confusing. So no, definitely the world of supplements is, and I feel like it gets murkier and murkier. Like the more supplements get launched, the more marketing goes behind them.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I can think of a couple of brands that are also backed and supported by influencers. So they all say like, I've invested in this company and I also think it's made such a huge difference. And so they're pushing, again, I'm assuming they're not experts. They've invested because they like the numbers and what it looked like, in terms of an investment point of view.
Yeah.
But actually, have they looked at the product? Have they tried the product? Have they done the research themselves? Have they questioned that? Or is it more of just an investment decision?
Yeah.
And that is pushing also, I'm sure, lots of commercial, purchasing of things. Because you're like, she's really, someone I respect and I really like. She looks good. She seems fine, etc. I'm going to buy her product. So it's now kind of becoming a trend.
And these are people who, when they started, they're pushing healthy diet, healthy living, and they're and then suddenly, oh wow, you mean you can get all of that in a tiny little pill? No, but it's lucrative. It's much harder to sell a diet plan or diet style than a tiny little pill. And I think people need to be wary about that because the solution to your diet issues is not going to come in a little bottle typically. Yeah. It'll come from lots of different things.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, definitely.
Do you feel like you know a little bit more about supplements?
I do think Yeah, I mean, it's just, I suppose I don't take anything every day. I should take vitamin D, but I think it's made me think, maybe have a bit of wariness around it, and definitely be more careful if I do start taking things.
Just look what's in it.
Yeah.
And make sure you're not double, triple, quadrupling.
No, definitely feel like I know more about it. It is actually much more complicated than what marketing and social media is pushing right now.
Yeah. And they're trying to make it a really simple message so that it's a simple sale.
Yes.
But actually, when you add it all up, it's not all that straightforward. And that's why I get quite a lot of despaired clients who they don't know where to move forward with their long lists of supplements.
Yeah, that is really, I'm not surprised. I can't believe people are having 50 or plus at 20 or 30 plus a day.
Yeah. And feeling not great.
No, I'm not surprised. That's a lot of plastic in your tummy.
Yeah. And, a lot of time you start reducing and they feel better. And so it's sort of, they're like, oh, wow, less, and actually feeling more out of it. Good. Well, hopefully it's helpful to you and to anybody else who's listening who might have dabbled with supplements or thinking about supplements or keep getting bombarded with them. And then after a while, I feel like there's attrition too, where it's like, okay, well, I might as well give it a go. I've seen this advert 25 times, but I'm here to say you might not need them. Yeah. It's okay to not take supplements if you don't need them. But yeah, thank you so much.
That's really interesting.
Good. And hopefully see you next time for Shift Happens. And yeah, you can catch this episode and all the other episodes wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much.